Some people say you have to find a niche before you start creating content. Then others say don't overthink it, just start posting and figure it out on the go. And then there's this relatively new school of thought that says you are the niche. So who's right? Because if you're anything like me, you've probably gone around in circles trying to figure this out. You sit there thinking, what should I even make videos about? What if I pick the wrong thing and waste months of my life? Or what if I outgrow it? Well, what I've learned after years of working with creators is most of them don't struggle because they can't find a niche. They struggle because they misunderstand what a niche even is. So give me the next 12 minutes of your time and I'll share with you the 3-step framework I use to help creators find clarity. Now, I've spent the past few years behind the scenes helping creators grow on YouTube, people with massive audiences, millions of subscribers, hundreds of viral videos. And this is what I've learned. The people who last the longest on the platform, who stay fulfilled and who consistently make the most money aren't the ones chasing views. They're the ones who have clarity. They know who they are, who they're creating for and why. And that clarity is what helps them build something sustainable, something that gives them both creative and financial freedom. And I've seen both sides of it. One creator I worked with had over 500,000 subscribers, viral videos, big brand deals, everything you'd assume meant success. But behind the scenes, they were exhausted. They were unsure what their next video should be. They were constantly chasing momentum that just never felt stable. Yet another creator I worked with had under 5,000 subscribers and was consistently making $30,000 a month and excited to make content every week. The difference was everything they created pointed in one direction. They knew who they were helping and why. They weren't chasing trends or views. They were building something deeper. And that's what clarity does. It makes the work sustainable and in turn gets you to creative and financial freedom quicker. Now, on a side note, I keep bringing up the monetization aspect, but that's because I completely disagree with this notion that you shouldn't monetize what you love because it will ruin it. In fact, especially if you're older, you've got work, family, responsibilities. If you don't find a way to make money creating content, no matter how much you enjoy it, you'll almost certainly stop doing it because you'll run out of time to do it for free. So I'd see monetizing your passion not as selling out, but as how you buy yourself more time to do what you love. So back to finding clarity. Finding clarity feels impossible when you're starting out because every time you try to pick a niche, it feels like you're cutting off a part of yourself. You think, what if I choose the wrong thing? What if I want to change later? So you end up waiting, overthinking, never creating. The same thing happened to me. I spent literally years procrastinating, waiting for something to suddenly click and reveal my niche to me instead of just making content and letting the path reveal itself. Because here's the thing, you can spend months trying to plan the perfect path, but clarity doesn't come from planning, it comes from moving. But not random movement with purpose. I think of it like driving. You can sit there in park, turning the wheel left and right, imagining where to go, but the car won't actually turn until you start moving. But driving without knowing where you're headed just burns fuel. You still need a destination in mind. Even if that destination changes along the way, that's what finding your niche is like. You don't get clarity by sitting still, you get it by moving, but in a direction that actually means something to you. So how do you make sure your movement has direction? Well, I have a simple 3-step framework I use with all the creators I work with who feel stuck. It starts with curiosity. Now, there's different ways to uncover your curiosity. You could ask yourself, what could I talk about for half an hour with no preparation? Something that makes time disappear when you talk about it. Something that genuinely excites you. Or you could think about what people come to you for advice on, not because you're an expert, but because you know slightly more than they do. Or a third way is to look at the kind of content you consume. Check your YouTube homepage or your Instagram Explore page. What topics pull you in? Let's say you love the Diary of a CEO podcast. Which parts actually grab your attention? Is it the philosophy? Is it the business side? Is it the personal growth stuff? Identify what sparks your curiosity. Because curiosity is your first clue, and it's ultimately the most important factor. You have to be genuinely interested in what you're creating content around. Don't fall into the trap of basing your decision on CPM rates or what the most profitable niche is, because it won't be sustainable. Take it from me. A few years ago, I started creating content around personal finance because it had the highest CPM rates. And I thought, yeah, I like personal finance. I could talk about that. I made 3 videos, got 300 subscribers, and then never made a single video again. Ultimately, it's your genuine curiosity that needs to guide you. And it's that will keep you creating in those first few months when almost no one's watching your videos, and it's really disheartening. But here's the key. Curiosity gives you a starting point, but not the final answer. It points you towards what might be your niche, but not what is your niche. You'll only truly discover that by testing those ideas in public, learning what feels right, and paying attention to the response. Once you've found the things you naturally gravitate toward, then you can start looking at the next part of the framework, experience. This is all about what you already know, and this will build depth into that curiosity. Ask yourself, what have I actually lived, learned, or failed at that someone else could learn from? It doesn't have to be a huge story. Maybe you've switched careers, maybe you've rebuilt your confidence after a breakup, maybe you're figuring out how to juggle family life and creativity. Whatever it is, that's value because it's real. You don't need to be an expert, you just need to be a few steps ahead of someone who's still figuring it out. And genuinely, those are the creators who people connect with the most because you remember what it feels like to be at the start, and that's what makes you relatable. That's what builds connection. The people who last the longest on this platform are the ones who build from truth. When you speak from experience, you're not guessing what people need. You already know because you've been there. And when you start creating from that place, everything will just feel lighter. You're not chasing trends. You're not trying to sound smart. You're just sharing what's already inside of you. I saw this recently with a creator who started posting about learning design from scratch. She wasn't pretending to be a pro. She was just honest about the process. And because of that, people showed up for her. They saw themselves in her journey. She turned transparency into trust. And now she's building a loyal audience for herself. That's what experience really gives you, empathy and connection. It's what makes people feel like you get it. And that feeling is what makes them stick around. So once you've tapped into experience, the last step is service. This is where you ask yourself, how can what I've learned actually help someone else? And help can mean a lot of things. It doesn't need to mean teaching. Sometimes it's entertaining. Sometimes it's motivating. Sometimes it's just being honest enough that people watching feel less alone. Maybe your videos help someone get through a hard day. Maybe they give someone the courage to start over. Or maybe they just make someone think, yeah, I'm not the only one who feels like that. That's service too. And when you start creating from that place, everything else gets easier. The pressure to prove yourself fades. You're not performing for approval anymore. You're creating for connection. And once you start creating from service, your obsession with finding your niche fades. You'll stop worrying about categories and start thinking about people. Every time you create a piece of content, you'll start thinking, how is this serving my audience? And then you'll realize your niche was never really about topics. It was about impact. So follow your curiosity, build from experience, create from service. And before you know it, you'll have built yourself a loyal and connected audience that inspires you to turn up and make content every day. I hope you found this useful. If you want help getting started, I've put together a free Creator Clarity Framework PDF that walks you through this video step by step, which you can grab the link for in the description below. I hope you find that useful too, and I'll see you in the next one.